Good morning, EOC. It's Stephen Duncan. I am your resident lawn care nut. And as promised, I'm going to be doing a vlog series on how to grow a better turf grass and going into details about some of the most important things that gets my grass going. So in a nutshell, you want to go from something like this to this. Stay tuned and I'm going to show you how to do this. So when you're trying to grow a high quality turf grass, you got to think about soil and the conditions that you want your grass to grow in. And one of the most important things is a soil test. Now, just going back to when your home was built, you got to think when the developer backfilled these lots, the soil that they put in was just garbage. And it's when you're cutting sod or trying to grow seed, and I'll just go back to sod for example, when they cut that sod and they come place it in your yard, it is coming from an absolute ideal condition for it to grow, and then you're cutting it from the ground and then you're coming to put it on that terrible soil that the contractor brought in. And if you just leave it there, you can't just expect some type of, leave it there and do nothing and it's going to grow. That's the same ways to apply to seed. A lot of these contractors threw a contractor's blend of seed down in your backyard, and now maybe the majority of it's just weeds. And that's because what they're trying to do at that point is just trying to hold the soil together. It's not so much for a good turf grass stand. They're kind of leaving that to you, the homeowner, to take care of that. Now, going back to the soil, one of the most important things that you need to do, whether it just be trying to get a new lawn, trying to renovate a lawn, or just trying to maybe fix some spots in your lawn where the turf isn't growing, is you need to do a soil test. And we'll talk about a soil test. I'm going to talk about what a soil test is, why we do it, how we do it, and when we do it. And in a nutshell, what a soil test is, it's a snapshot of what's in the ground at any given time. Now, that can differ from month to month and obviously from season to season. And when we do these soil tests, we want to do a good soil test. Now, you can get some at Lowe's that claim to test the soil for you, but they're not going to be good as a couple of the other ones you can get off the market, one of them being Soil Savvy. I'll put a link down to that. It's about $26. That one's a little bit more pricey. The good thing about Soil Savvy, though, is that test is more specifically geared towards turf grass. Now, personally, I use the one from the Cumberland County Extension Office because it's $4. You do your test, you turn it back into them, and they send it off to NC State Soil Science Department. There's nothing wrong with that test, but it's just geared more towards farmers that are putting crops in the ground. But it does give you all the essential information such as pH, your big macronutrients, and your micronutrient count. So, and it's only $4. It's easy to do. So I just do with that one. Now, when we do this is, personally, I do it twice a year, but the absolute minimum is one time per year, and if you're going to do it, it's going to be in January. And the reason you want to do it in January is to get ready for the spring green up. Now, the one thing you have to look at too, and the big reason to do it in January, is the soil pH. A lot of your soils here in the EOC will probably be, the pH will be low. And you need time to bump that pH from whatever it is into around 6 to 6.5 range. And that takes a little bit of time once you put the line down to get that soil pH bumped up. And again, that's why you want to do this in January. There is not a person in the world, whether it be me, Pete, Joe, Costa, True Green, whoever, that can come look at your soil or your turf and say, hey, you need to put this, this, and this on it. That's not possible. And so before you start any lawn care program, or you start trying to do any kind of thing that's going to get your lawn going, you have to have one of these soil tests. And why is pH important? Because if you don't have a great, a range between 6 and 6.5, and that's for all the warm seam turfs here in the EOC, Centipede, Bermuda, Zoysia, or St. Augustine. What that does is it affects the turf's ability to uptake those nutrients out of the ground. So if you're your pH is going to be around 4.5, 5%. Basically, you can be throwing down all the fertilizer you want, but right, if the turf doesn't have the ability to bring up those nutrients, it's pretty much just you're wasting time, money, and effort. Now, is it possible to get a green turf grass without your pH being off? Yes, it is. But what you will see over time is that turf will begin to thin out. At least my grandmother would always be like, "Hey, go throw lime on it," and they would do this every year. And the turf would just look like crap, and then we go throw lime on it, and suddenly it turns green, and you think it's the lime doing all the work. No, it's really not the lime doing the work. It's suddenly that turf grass now has unlocked itself and started taking up the nutrients that are in the ground. But what that does, again, over time, is when you start raising the pH level above 7, and you're just continually throwing lime on it, then you're going to just eventually thin out the grass. And I'll tell you, I did my first soil test about 3 years ago, and I put the lime on it then, and my lime was about my pH was about 4.5%. I put the recommended rate down based off the soil test, and I've been at about 6 to 6.5% for the last or pH for the last 3 years. So you can see just how long it lasts once you put it down. So again, if anybody comes and tells you that they just look at your lawn and tell you what you need to put on it, that's not right. And so this is why these soil tests are so important.